In this lesson, we'll talk about the process of grouping and parenting objects together inside of Maya. Okay, so grouping and parenting usually come into play whenever you have one or more objects that you want to have moving together as a whole. Now, there's some instances where just simply grabbing a handful of objects and moving them around may not give you very good results. So a perfect example would be some of these simple little objects where you have something like this outer cage. If I select this, you can see sort of where the center point is. Now if I grab this orange tube, you can see that its point of rotation, or its movement point, is down here at the bottom. So you can see as I rotate this object, it sort of rotates down along this area, while this little outer cage sort of rotates more around the middle. Well, if I grab both of these objects and try to move them both at the same time, you can see how both of these objects are moving around their individual pivot points. They're really not moving together. So parenting and grouping, these are two different methods of actually having two different objects share some sort of a common point of rotation. So let's first start to talk about parenting and how that works, and then we'll talk a little bit about grouping. So with a parent, it's really just sort of like the name suggests. You have a parent object, which is sort of a master, and then you have children that follow that parent. So let's start by just selecting maybe a couple of different objects here. Let's say this inner tube here. And any object that we select, when it comes to making a parent-child relationship, the order of your selection is very, very important. So let's say that when it comes to moving this tube and this outer cage together, if I want these to move together, probably I want this tube to be the master, the parent. So as I grab this tube and move it around, the cage will follow. So setting up this method, what we need to do is select first the child, then shift select the parent. Okay? When it comes to making a parent-child relationship, the last object selected will always be the parent. So with both of these selected, we can now go to Edit, and now Parent. Okay, so with a parent-child relationship, what we should see now is whenever I grab, let's say, the parent, you can see that the child automatically becomes selected. And now when I rotate, you can see both the parent and the child will follow the parent's rotation. So the child is always going to follow along with the parent. Now the child still has the ability to move on its own. So if I grab the child object, which is this cage, I can still grab the child and move it around independently. But wherever the parent goes, the child has to go along with it. Okay, and just to sort of clear up this mess, I'll take my rotation on this outer cage and zero that back out, so that way it snaps back to the rotation of the parent. So this is one method. Now if I ever wanted to unparent or get rid of this child-parent relationship, we can go to Edit and then simply choose Unparent. And now what we should see, well, let's actually grab both of these. There we go. So if we grab the child and then choose the Unparent command, now that will break that parent-child relationship, where now if I grab this inner orange tube, it no longer grabs the child. Again, this parent-child relationship has been broken. Now let's look at this relationship in a little bit more visual way. So we're going to go to Window, and we're going to open up an area called the Outliner. So with the Outliner, we can see not only all of the objects and the things contained within our scene, but we can also see the hierarchy or the relationship between the two. So if, again, I take something like this outer cage, shift select to grab this orange tube, again, the last object selected will always be the parent. And now once again, parent these together. So now if I grab this orange tube, you can see that one of the objects in my scene seems to have disappeared. Okay, we have this green tube and the green cage, but we should have the orange tube and an orange cage. In that case, you can see that this orange cage has disappeared. Well, it really hasn't. The fact is it's still in our scene, but the outliner shows us a little bit different relationship. So we have the orange tube, but parented underneath that, or underneath that as a child, we have this cage object. So sort of what we have here is, again, at the top level you have any parent, and then underneath this you have any children of that object. So we can actually make and break parent-child relationships directly from this outliner if we want to. So let's say we wanted this tube cage to be completely broken. We can move objects around and restack their hierarchy inside the outliner by middle dragging. So if I middle mouse drag this orange tube cage, let's say up or below this, and pull it out of that hierarchy. There we go, so I middle click, drag, and in this case it looks like I accidentally middle clicked and dragged it onto this green tube. So now as I grab this green tube, you can see Maya now thinks that it's the parent of this outer cage, so now it's going to move those together. So sometimes it might be a little bit easier, a little bit more trouble-free to just grab this and then unparent. There we go. Now you can see that that has been taken out of the hierarchy, and now we have 4 individual objects once again. So that is parenting, and again, you're going to learn a lot about parenting and grouping as you start to get into the animation and rigging sections, because that's where this starts to become really, really important. So parenting is what we've looked at this point. Now we also have a feature called grouping, which works very similar to parenting, but instead of one of our objects becoming the parent, you can really think of both of our objects becoming children of some kind of a new parent object that gets created at that time. So let's say I take both of these surfaces, and again, I want both of these to be able to move together. Now what we could do is go to Edit, and instead of Parent, we'll choose Group. Okay, now at this point, what I can do is take a look at this here in the outliner, and you can see here's a new group that has been created. Now if I expand this, you can see that both the orange tube and the tube cage are children of this new group node that has been created. So I can still have completely independent control over both of these objects. So I can grab the outer cage, it moves independently. I can grab this orange tube, move it independently. But if I grab the group, I can move them both together. Now, a quick and easy way of grabbing a group inside of your scene is to select one of your child objects and then press the up arrow key on your keyboard. Once I tap the up arrow key, it takes me up to any top level group that I have, and now I can move both of these together. Again, this will start to become a lot more clear as you start to get into the animation and rigging sections of this training, where this is going to become a really, really important process and a really important thing to utilize in order to make sure that your objects in the scene move and animate together in the way that they should. Again, if you want to break any group connections, we could middle click on an object inside of the outliner here, middle click and drag that outside of the group itself, or you could just grab your objects, go to Edit, and then choose Ungroup. Let's actually grab the group this time and ungroup. There we go. Now you can see the group has been taken out, and now we have 2 independent objects once again. Okay, so that's a quick look at the process and a basic little preview of what we can start to get through the processes of parenting and grouping objects together.